Um, so we're coming up soon on the lunchtime, but first I want to welcome now to the stage Daisy Auger-Domínguez. Daisy's been a senior people executive at companies including Google, Disney, Viacom, Moody's, and Vice Media. She's the author of a great book called Inclusion Revolution and a brand new book, which just came out a few weeks ago, right? Called Burnt Out to Lit Up. And she's going to take us on the home stretch to the lunch break with strategies for reigniting the joy of leading people. Someone on one of your Amazon reviewers called it a love letter to managers everywhere or something like that.
I've been calling it that.
That's it. Maybe you're the reviewer.
Yeah.
Daisy, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. Hi, everyone. Daisy Auger-Domínguez. As Kevin just said, or as my grandmother likes to say, I've worked at a lot of places. I am absolutely delighted to be here. I wrote Burnt Out to Lit Up because I have seen burnout steal the light from my most passionate colleagues. I have seen the folks that wake up every day, like I believe most of you here, wanting to make a change, do things better, do all the things that Edith was just telling us, and slowly lose their energy. And I wanted to speak directly to those of us who often sit in the crossfires between the unrelentless demands from the top and also the increasing unrelentless demands from the bottom, and the messy human aspect of work. Because I believe that to lead well, we have to live well. But it took me a long time to figure that out. And several years ago, I wasn't burnt out. I was burnt crispy. I had nothing left. And I couldn't even see what was happening to me. And I had several conversations. People often ask me, it's like, where did your idea come from? I was like, I'm like most of us. I'm dumb, right? Like I need to have the same thing happen to me over and over again. But I remember years ago sitting with an executive coach that I had hired to support one of our C-suite leaders, one of my peers. And I sat down with him and I was expecting him to just give me a progress report, how the leader was doing, what was working, what wasn't working. And he paused, and like a good executive coach looked at me straight in the face and said, "What is keeping you up at night, Daisy?" And I was so taken aback by that question that I actually closed my eyes. He tells me that. I closed my eyes because I just needed to just pause and think. And in that moment, I just started thinking about how all of our days felt like this fast-paced game of Tetris. All of the boxes coming from the bottom, right? Like just escalating financial pressures, global social tensions, the lingering effects of the pandemic. And it seemed like the game was set on expert mode and nobody had given me the rules of the game. And I was just trying to figure out how to get to that. And all of a sudden, the one thing that was clear to me, and I said to him was, what keeps me up at night is the growing anger and frustration among my managers. I watch them every day becoming these apathetic zombies. And they are worn down with the increasing uncertainty, the chronic fear that is reducing their ability to be creative, to be productive, to actually problem solve what we need them to do. And that is wearing them down and is wearing their teams down. And I don't know what to do. And in that conversation, we started talking about what was missing. And the word joy kept on coming back to me. It's like, we're missing joy. We're missing awe in our work. One of the chapters of my book is called Finding Awe at Work, Turning Nightmares into Epic Adventures. Because I believe that we can turn these workplace nightmares into the adventures that we've been hoping for in our professional careers. And so in the process of figuring this out, I had to figure out what I needed to refine my joy. And I talk about joy, if those of you are thinking like this is too woo-woo for me, like let me just be real. This is the humanness of what we deal with every day. And what I have seen, and I think many of us have seen over the last couple of years, is that joy drained from all of us, that leading to our inability to actually lead and to actually manage the way that we want to manage. So throughout Burnt Out to Lit Up, I offer many practices. I don't call them strategies. It's just like the corporate thing to do is say strategy. I was like, this is like building muscle. We have to just work at these things and find the areas. Edith talked to us about paying attention, right? These things seem really simple, but we're just not good at them, right? We don't do them consistently. Forget about just DEI practice. We're not good at actually taking care of ourselves so that we can better take care of others. So what does that look like? One of the practices that I share is to embrace a beginner's mind. Now, all of us have spent many years becoming experts. We have been trained to be the very best at what we do. But Shunryu Suzuki, who wrote the book Beginner's Mind, tells us that when we're experts, we're limited in what we think. We go to this phrase that I hate hearing, the way we've always done it, right? This is where we stay. But when we're a beginner, remember when you first got your first job or your first promotion, that sense of energy and excitement, that sense that everything was possible until you got all stressed out and nothing was possible at all, right? That energy, right? That beginner's mind is what allows us to be curious, to think about things differently. Right? One of the chapters in my book is called Release Your Hungry Ghosts. And it is a Buddhist term that are these ghosts that suck the life out of you. And I talk about the people and the processes and projects that suck the life out of us. Well, if we were to look at these from a curious perspective, what does it look like to ask? Well, how do we do that differently? What are we trying to solve for? How can we find something funny and light in this busy work that we have to do? We have to grind it for the next 3 months. Let's find lightness in this. And when we encourage our teams to do that, we encourage our teams to model the behaviors that we hope everyone models, which is thoughtful creativity, thoughtful problem solving, lightness in our work, and lightness in a world that is super heavy. Right? Richard just told us about all the challenges in the world and how do we solve for them? We do it by finding that moment of a beginner's mind that moves us away from that rigidness that we cling to an openness that helps us look at things differently. And not just us, helps our teams look at things differently. The second, oh my gosh, that timer goes really quickly. The second practice, the second one I'm going to share with you today, I have many, is to actually find humor in the hamster wheel. Right? We often feel like we're in this hamster wheel and it's going nowhere, and we get really angry and everything sucks and that's it, I'm done. The hamster wheel is what it is, right? We have to work, we have to grind, right? It's called labor for a reason. It is what it is. But how do we find joy in those moments and sometimes humor? Right? I work as a fractional chief people officer, and I was with one of my clients yesterday, and we were asking them to run a search for a role that we may or may not fill, and the team is getting frustrated, and what does that look like? And I'm like, okay, everybody just pause. Let's assume that everything you're all saying is right. But let's just try and see if we find some really great, exciting people in this role. It's like, let's have some fun with this. Let's actually meet some people that we've never met before. That's really cool. Let's build a pipeline of talent like the superstars that we would want to bring to this organization. Let's look at this differently. What does that emanate for you? And the team started coming up with ideas, and it was like, we haven't searched in this area, and we haven't looked in this area. And it became a hamster wheel, because to be fair, we're going to keep going at it for a long time. But it became like this fun, joyful hamster wheel. I was like, all right, Daisy, I'm joining you. I'm coming with you, right? Everybody became part of it. And it was a moment of pause, and it was a moment of recognizing, speaking truth. This is not about gaslighting people, right? It's like speaking truth to what's happening and figuring out how do we find some joy in it. And then the third one, as I close, is to sprinkle joy and gratitude like confetti. We come to work and we get really grumpy, or we're really good at the thank yous and the pleases because that's what we were taught to do, but we're not really good at expressing real gratitude, right? How many of you have a happy folder? Come on, yes, I have a happy folder. It's a virtual one now, but I take photos of cards and I make sure I put them in there. And it's a happy folder is those, and someone actually, Frank, I don't know if you're here. I was at a dinner with Frank Kongyu recently, and he, I forget his name, but one of his colleagues said, it's data that matters. And I was like, I like that, right? It's that place that I go to on those days where I feel like I can't do anything right. And I'm reminded, I was like, oh, actually I did something good. One of my favorite notes when I left Vice a year ago, and I was leaving under tremendous stress and everything that had happened in the organization. And one of my team members gave me a goodbye note, and he said, Daisy, we don't often see what you do behind the scenes, but we know you're always advocating for us. We feel it. Thank you. It brought tears to my eyes. I just lost it in that moment. And it reminded me that what I do matters. It reminded me that what I do has an impact on people. We need to cling onto those pieces, and we need to make sure that we create ritualized moments of gratitude on our team, for our team meetings. How many times do we just skip over 5 minutes of being able to say, what's a hi? Who did something really great, right? The roses and thorns, we do all of that. How do we express gratitude for each other? How do we find the joy and the awe in collaborating, in connecting, in engaging with each other in a way that allows us to lead well? Because if we live well, we can lead well. And that is what I believe most of us want to do in our really tough and hard jobs. I hope you read the book. If you do, I hope you give me feedback. And I hope that you live a life and a career that brings you and others the joy that everyone deserves. Thank you so much.
Well, not fun to follow that.